The nights on planet Sayana were always beautiful. But for Princess Alira, they were painful. Silver moons floated across the sky. The stars looked like jewels in a black sea. Wind moved softly through the tall crystal trees. Everything was peaceful, except her. Alira sat on the edge of her giant bed, her golden eyes wide open. She had not slept in years. Not even for a moment. Not even a blink of true rest. They called it the royal curse. No one knew where it came from. But every daughter born into the Zion royal bloodline faced the same feta body that begged for sleep and a soul that could never find it. Each night, the pain began. Her heart would race. Her skin burned like fire. Whispers would rise in her ears, voices of dead queens crying in madness. Every healer failed. Every machine broke. No medicine worked. No one could stay near her when the curse came. Her mother, Queen Yalri, kept her locked away from the public. The people were told their princess was studying and training for the future. But everyone in the palace knew the truth. Alira was cursed, and she was alone. One night, something changed. There was an explosion far beyond the forest border. Alarms rang in the palace. Soldiers rushed to the landing zone. A small Earth vessel had crashed in the outer field. Inside the broken ship was a human man. He was injured, bleeding from his shoulder. His clothes were burned. His face was dirty. But he was still alive. He said his name was Commander Jake Harlona, peace envoy from Earth, on a diplomatic mission to another planet. A navigation error had pulled him off course and forced a crash. Landing here, the Queen ordered him locked in the lower cells. But when Alira heard about the human, her tired eyes opened with interest for the first time in weeks. "A human?" she whispered to her lady-in-waiting. "Bring him to me." In the throne hall, everyone stood confused as the cursed princess, pale and sleepless, entered slowly, wearing a silver robe that shimmered like starlight. Her steps were quiet, almost ghost-like. Her golden hair flowed down her back like liquid fire. Two guards brought Jake in, his hands bound but his head held high. Alira stared at him for a long time. He stared back, but not in fear, not in pity, just curious. "You do not kneel," she said quietly. "I don't know your customs," Jake answered, "but I respect them." She nodded. Then she did something that shocked the guards. She waved her hand and said, "Unbind him. Leave us." Everyone hesitated. I said, "Leave." They obeyed. Now they were alone. Alira stepped closer to the strange human. "You're from Earth," she said. "Yes." "You speak gently, yet your voice is strong." Jake smiled. "I was taught to stay calm under pressure." She looked away, then said something strange. "Do you believe in curses?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Some say bad luck is just fear. Others say it's real. I've seen strange things. So, yes. Maybe I do." Alira looked back at him. "I cannot sleep," she said softly. "Not for years. No one can help me. Not even my own kind can stay near me at night. The curse drives them away. It drives me mad." Jake didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. Then he said 5 words that she never expected to hear. "Then I will stay tonight." Alira blinked. "You don't understand. The curse. It's not a story. It hurts. It's loud. It breaks things inside you." Jake nodded. "I understand, but maybe you just need someone who won't run." She wanted to laugh. She wanted to cry. Instead, she whispered, "We will see." She turned and walked away. "Come with me." She led him to her private chamber, a room of glowing crystals and soft blue lights. The air smelled like dream flowers. Her bed was huge and untouched. She never used it. She always sat on the floor or walked all night. Jake looked around. "It's beautiful. It is cold, she answered. Elira sat on the edge and looked at him. You may sleep on the couch. If you can, I will, try. Jake nodded. He lay down on the couch without asking more. Elira sat quietly on the bed, watching him. He closed his eyes, and in minutes he slept. His breathing was slow. His body relaxed. He trusted her. That night, when the curse came burning like fire in her veins, Lyra reached out without thinking. She touched his hand. Jake opened his eyes, saw her, shaking, and grabbed her hand tightly. He didn't let go. The voices were still there. The pain still burned, but for the first time, something else was there too. A human heartbeat, and that sound calmed her more than anything ever had. She didn't sleep, but she rested her head against the wall, and for the first time in years, she didn't cry. Jake woke to the soft hum of alien wind. He blinked and looked around. The room still glowed with soft blue light. Strange flowers grew from the walls, glowing gently like small stars. A curved window showed the 2 moons still shining in the sky. He looked toward the bed. Princess Alira was sitting exactly where she had been last night. But her eyes were closed, not sleeping, just resting. She wasn't crying, she wasn't trembling. She looked peaceful. When Alira opened her eyes, Jake stood quietly, not wanting to disturb her. You didn't leave, she said. Said I'd stay. She studied him. Her golden eyes looked brighter now. I almost closed my eyes last night. She whispered. It wasn't sleep, but it was close. That's the first time in my life that's happened. Jake stepped closer. Then maybe this curse isn't unbreakable. She shook her head. The curse isn't just pain, it's fear. Generations of fear. My mother believes I must suffer like her. My people say a sleepless mind makes a wiser ruler, but I don't want to be wise like that. I want to live. Jake listened quietly. He didn't offer magic words. He didn't offer a solution. He just listened. No one ever did that for Alira before. Later, servants entered the room, shocked to find the human still alive. No wounds, no broken mind. Just Alira stood before them and said, He is not a prisoner anymore. He is my guest. Treat him with respect. The news spread fast. A cursed princess allowing a human to stay near her at night. Whispers filled the palace. As the sun rose, Alira gave Jake a tour of her private garden. There were no guards, no advisors. Just the 2 of them. Why did you really stay? She asked. Jake shrugged. Where I'm from, we don't leave someone in pain. I wasn't raised that way. No one has ever dared spend a night beside me before, she said. Maybe they were cowards. Jake said with a smirk. Alira laughed. A real, soft laugh. She looked surprised at her own sound. That hasn't happened in years, she said quietly. They sat by a glowing fountain, water singing softly. Jake asked, What do you miss the most? Before the curse, Alira looked up at the sky. I don't remember what peace feels like, or silence, or dreams. Jake nodded. On Earth, we call that burnout. It eats people from the inside. Burnout. She repeated, testing the word. It means being alive, but feeling dead. Alira touched her chest. Yes, that's what I feel. Jake looked at her for a long moment. Then we'll bring you back to life. She smiled. You speak as if it's easy. Jake smiled back. It's not, but I've been through worse. Alira led Jake to her favorite place in the Palisa. Hidden balcony where stars looked close enough to touch. This is where I come when I want to scream, she said. But tonight, I just want to breathe. Jake stood beside her in silence. The 2 moons rose higher, casting soft light on their faces. Alira turned toward him. I want you to stay again tonight. Jake didn't even hesitate. "I'm not going anywhere." But not everyone was happy. Down in the lower levels of the palace, the royal council met in secret. "The human must be removed," one elder said. "He is changing the princess." Another warned, "She is thinking too freely, too softly." "She is laughing," said another. "She is sleeping." "The curse is a test of strength," the queen's advisor said. "If he removes it, he removes her right to rule." A final voice, dark, cruel, spoke from the shadows. "Then he must not stay a third night." Back in Alira's chambers, she sat on the edge of the bed once again. Jake was nearby, setting a pillow on the couch. "You don't have to protect me," she said suddenly. Jake looked at her. "I'm not here to protect you." "I'm here because—" "You asked?" She looked down. "I don't know what this is between us. You're not like anyone I've met before." Jake nodded. "Maybe that's a good thing." Alira walked slowly toward him. She touched his hand. "Stay again, please." Jake looked into her tired golden eyes and gently said, "Always." That night, as the curse began to rise, painful and cold, like every night before, Lyra turned toward Jake before it could fully consume her. He was already reaching for her hand. She held it tightly. The darkness still came, but she no longer faced it alone. The sky outside the palace turned deep purple. Night was falling again, inside her private chamber. Princess Alira stood by the window. She didn't look tired. She looked afraid. This was always the worst part of the day, the moment before the curse returned. Her hands trembled slightly. She rubbed her arms as coldness started creeping into her skin. She didn't want to scream tonight. She didn't want to shake or cry or break. Not in front of Jake, behind her. Jake moved quietly. He didn't speak. He was preparing the same couch he'd slept on the night before. He didn't want to disturb her. Alira finally turned and said softly, "You don't have to sleep on the couch." Jake looked at her. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable," he replied. She took a breath, then said, "The curse doesn't hit full strength unless I'm completely alone. That's why the room stays cold. That's why no one can help me." Jake nodded. "So you're saying, if someone stays close, it weakens." "Maybe not weakens," she said, "but it, listens." Jake looked at the massive bed, then back. At her, she gave the smallest nod. Jake walked toward it. They sat at opposite sides at first. No touching. Just silence between them. Not an awkward silence, a deep silence. Like two people listening to each other's hearts without needing words. The lights dimmed automatically. Outside, the moons rose again. Alira spoke softly. "When I was 13, I begged my mother to let me live outside the palace. I thought maybe the curse would go away if I lived like a normal person." Jake asked, "Did she let you?" Alira smiled sadly. She laughed. Then she said, "Royalty does not run. It endures." Jake looked at her for a moment. Maybe? Royalty needs to rest, too. Suddenly, Alira winced. The curse was starting. A wave of invisible fire rolled through her chest. Her breath shook. Her fingers curled into fists. The same cold whispers crawled into her ears. But then, Jake reached over and gently placed his hand on hers. No force, no grabbing, just presence. Alira froze, not from fear but surprise. She looked down at their hands. His was warm. Her skin had gone pale. The voices in her head didn't scream this time. They whispered, and then faded. Alira slowly leaned back into the bed's soft pillows. Her eyes closed. She wasn't sleeping, but she wasn't suffering. Jake lay beside her, still and calm, not touching her further. He just stayed present. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. Alira whispered, "You're still here." Jake smiled with his eyes closed. I told you I would be. Somewhere deep in the palace, the queen stood in her private chamber. Staring into a mirror made of ice crystal, her advisors whispered in the background. She let him in her bed. She's resting now, for the first time. This could change everything. The queen's face was unreadable. She is breaking tradition, one advisor said. She is healing. Another replied. The queen turned away from the mirror and said coldly, healing is not what makes a ruler. Pain makes power. She left the room, her expression dark, back in Alira's chamber. The silence was growing stronger, not empty silence, safe silence. Alira opened her eyes again. I dreamed something, she whispered. Jake looked over, surprised. Really? It's not a full dream. But I saw something. Light. A child's voice. A small laugh. I think it was mine. A memory. Jake smiled gently. You're remembering who you were before the curse. She blinked fast, her golden eyes wet. I thought she was gone, Alira. Whispered. That little girl. Jake's voice was soft. She's still here. Just tired. Like you. They stayed like that for the rest of the night. No passion, no grand declarations, just quiet breathing. A slow return to peace. For the first time in her life, Alira slept only for an hour. But it was real sleep. When she woke, she didn't scream. She didn't sweat. She just looked beside her. Jake was still there, watching the ceiling. Relax. Lyra whispered. Thank you. Jake answered, You don't have to thank me. I'm honored. They lay in the bed as sunlight touched the window, and, for the first time, the royal bed was no longer cursed. It was a place of silence, of healing, of something new. Asterisk. The morning sun had never felt this warm. Princess Alira stood by the open balcony, letting the golden rays kiss her skin. Her long hair moved gently in the wind. She was smiling, not a royal smile for the public, but a soft, honest smile. Behind her, Jake stretched on the bed, blinking as he woke up. You didn't cry last night? He said. Alira nodded, her voice. I didn't scream either. She touched her chest slowly, as if surprised that it didn't burn. I don't understand it. The curse. It didn't fight like before. Jake walked over beside her. Maybe it's not a curse at all. Maybe it's loneliness passed down like a crown. Her smile faded a little. Then why couldn't anyone else help me? Jake looked into her eyes. Because no one else ever stayed. But while their quiet morning was filled with hope, the palace halls were filled with anger. Down below, the royal council had gathered. 12 elder Zion nobles sat in a circle, wearing long black robes, their eyes full of judgment. Their faces were sharp, cold, and full of tradition. A large holoscreen showed surveillance from Alira's private chamber granny. Quiet images of her sleeping in the bed with the human beside her. The council members murmured in shock. She allowed him into her sacred chamber. She invited him to the royal bed. Not once, but twice. This breaks the law of isolation sacred for 400 years. Then the oldest counselor, Lord Vale, stood. His voice was low but powerful. This human is dangerous. He changes the princess. He weakens her. He makes her soft. Another elder added, he must be removed before her blood is fully poisoned. A silent vote was cast. The result? Unanimous. Jake Harlan must be exiled or executed. Alira walked with Jake through the palace gardens, laughing gently as they stepped over glowing stones. Birds with crystal feathers flew above them. It felt like peace. But peace never lasted long in the royal world. A messenger ran to them. He bowed low. Your Highness. The Queen commands your presence. Immediately, Alira's smile vanished. Looked at Jake. Stay here. I'll return soon." He nodded, but his gut told him something wasn't right. Elira entered the royal chamber wide. Silent hall filled with pillars and glowing red symbols. Her mother, Queen Yellari, stood at the far end, wearing her crown and armor of ancient bone and steel. The council stood behind her like shadows. "Daughter," the queen said without warmth, "you have slept." Alira held her head high. "Yes." "With a human?" "Yes." Queen Yellari's jaw clenched. "Do you even understand what you've done?" "I've broken nothing but silence," Alira replied. "You've brought shame to the crown. I've brought peace to myself." The queen stepped down from her throne. "Peace is not your purpose," she said. "You were born to carry the pain, to rule through suffering." Alira's voice broke slightly. "Then I don't want the throne." Gasps echoed through the chamber, but Queen Yellari was not surprised. She spoke to the council without turning. "The human must leave the palace today. If he refuses, he will be executed as a threat to royal stability." "No," Alira shouted. "You can't." "I can," the queen said coldly, "and I will." She turned her back. "Choose the throne or the human." Alira returned to her chambers, her face pale with fury. Jake stood when he saw her. "What happened?" "They want you gone," she said. "They want to kill you." Jake stayed calm. "I expected that." Alira clenched her fists. "I told them no. I told them I'd leave the throne if they touched you." Jake stepped forward. "I didn't come here to cause a war." "You didn't," she whispered. "You gave me peace, and now they want to take it away again." Jake looked into her eyes. "Then let's run." "What? We'll leave? Together? You don't need this palace. You don't need that crown. You need sleep. You need air. You need life." Alira stepped back, shaken. "You would give up everything for me." Jake answered, "You've never had anything real. I have nothing to lose, but I won't lose you." Tears filled her eyes. "Then I choose you." That night, the guards came for Jake, but the room was empty. No bed, no princess, no human. Gone, vanished. The queen stared at the empty bed, her fists tight with rage. She looked at the sleeping pillow and whispered, she was the last hope. Guard beside her asked, "Shall we chase them?" The queen answered, "No. Let her go. Let her see the galaxy. Let her see what happens to those who try to live without pain." But her voice trembled with something strange. Not anger, not fear. Jealousy, far from the palace. In a stolen royal ship, Alira lay in Jake's arms for the third night in a row. No. Burning, no voices. Just peace and soft breathing as the stars passed quietly outside the window. She slept, truly slept. The stars outside their ship moved slowly, like glowing dust on black velvet. Inside the small sleeping cabin, Princess Alira was breathing softly. Her head rested on Jake's chest. One of her hands was gently curled around his shirt. She had never slept so deeply in her life. No whispers, no fire under her skin, no screaming voices, just silence and warmth. And dreams, real dreams. Alira opened her eyes after 6 full hours. She blinked in shock. Jake was still asleep. His arm around her, she slowly sat up, pressing her hand against her chest. It didn't hurt, it didn't burn. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from pain this time, from relief. "I'm free," she whispered. Jake woke a few minutes later and saw her sitting on the bed, smiling through tears. "You slept?" he asked softly. She nodded. 6 hours, I dreamed of flying. I saw myself as a child. I was laughing in the snow. Jake sat up. "That's beautiful." Alira touched his hand. "You made that possible." "No, Jake replied gently. Did they landed on a peaceful moon called Vethar? It was a quiet colony, far from politics and power. No one knew Alira here. No one cared who she was. For the first time in her life, she walked in a crowded market without bodyguards. She wore a simple green dress, her hair tied back. No crown, no title. Jake walked beside her, smiling at the way she stared at everything. With childlike wonder. "Those are real fruits," she said, pointing to a cart. "Not synthetic," he laughed. "Try one." She bit into a yellow fruit and gasped. "This is amazing." People nearby smiled at her laughter. Jake watched silently. She was healing. That night, in a small rented room, Alira stood by the bed, holding a soft blanket. "I used to think sleep was a punishment," she said. "Now I wait for it like a gift." Jake nodded, laying down beside her. Alira climbed into bed and turned to face him. "I still feel something inside me," she whispered. "Not the curse. Something different." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Like," she paused. "Like I'm still afraid I'll wake up in the palace again. Alone. Screaming." Jake gently took her hand. "That won't happen. I'm here." Her voice shook. "How do you know you'll stay?" Jake didn't answer with words. He kissed her forehead, held her close, and whispered, "Because I want to." As the night deepened, Alira dreamed again. But this time, the dream was strange. She was back in the palace, standing in the cold throne room. Her mother was there. But she was weeping, something Alira had never seen before. "You left me," the queen said. "In the dream, you took the light." Alira turned away, but behind her stood a tall mirror dot in it. She didn't see herself. She saw another girl, a younger version. Eyes glowing like stars. The girl spoke in a voice like wind. "The curse is not broken. Only sleeping." Alira woke with a sharp breath. Her heart was racing. Jake stirred beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Just a strange dream." But she didn't tell him the words. Not yet. The next day, Alira visited a local healer on Vetharnot, a royal doctor. Just a simple empath who used ancient methods. The healer scanned her body using light-based energy tools. Then she paused, confused. "There is something unusual about you," she said. "There is a bond inside you. Not illness, not damage. A living connection." Alira frowned. "What kind of connection?" The healer looked at Jake, then back at Alira. It centered around him. Alira froze. "Jake," the healer nodded. "Your nervous system responds to his presence like medicine. Your spirit quiets. It's not magic hits resonance." Jake looked confused. "What does that mean?" The healer smiled. "Some souls echo when near each other. You are ... harmonized." That night, Alira sat by the window of their room, thinking deeply. Jake came to her side. "What's wrong?" She looked at him. "What if I'm only better because of you?" He raised an eyebrow. "Is that bad? I don't want to become dependent. What if something happens to you?" Jake knelt beside her. "Alira, I didn't come here to fix you. I came because you needed someone to believe in you. Even if I'm gone one day, you'll still have that strength inside you." She stared into his eyes. "You really believe that?" Jake touched her cheek. "I do." They slept again that night, close, calm, connected. But far above, in the stars, a Xeon scout ship had picked up their signal. The queen had found her, and she was coming. Asterisk, the stars above Vathor shimmered silently. But behind them, something was coming. A Zion royal warship, black and sharp like a dagger, broke through the edge of the system. It flew with no signal, no warning. Hidden, watching, inside. Queen Yalari stood at the front window, her hands behind her back. Her crown gleamed with cold fire. "She has slept," said her advisor beside her. Yelri didn't speak. "She dreams now. She laughs, she calls the human her bond." The queen's jaw tightened. "Then she must be tested," she said quietly. One final time. Down on Vithor, Jake and Alira sat together outside a small garden cafe, drinking something warm and sweet from tall cups. They had spent the whole day walking among flowers, talking about small things. Nothing royal. Nothing heavy. Just life. But Alira's smile faded as a strange sound echoed above them. A deep hum then. Silence. A shadow moved across the sky. Jake stood quickly, eyes scanning the sky. Then he saw it, the ship. "Alira," he said. "We need to move." But she was already standing, her eyes wide. "It's my mother." The queen ship landed, just outside the Vethor colony. No guards came out, no weapons. Just her, Queen Yellari, walked slowly into the main square, dressed in armor that glowed with ancient runes. Everyone stared. No one stopped her. Alira stood in front of her. Jake was beside her. "Mother," Alira said, voice steady, "you've run far." The queen replied, "I've found peace." Yellari's eyes flicked to Jake. Double quotes, "No, you've found distraction." Alira stepped forward. "I've slept for 6 nights. For the first time in my life, I've rested." Because of him, the queen didn't blink. "Then prove it." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Prove it how?" Yellari turned to the sky. "The night of sorrow begins tonight." Alira went pale. Jake looked at her. "What is that?" She whispered, "It's the night when the curse is strongest. The one night even my ancestors feared. It only happens once every 10 years. Yellari spoke again, louder. "If your bond is real, this human truly protects you. He will stay with you through the entire night of sorrow. No leaving, no help. Just him and you. If you survive, the curse is broken. And I'll never." "Return," Jake said, without hesitation. "Then I accept." Alira grabbed his hand. "Jake, you don't understand. Oh, that night nearly killed my mother. My aunt lost her mind. It's not just pain, it's madness." Jake looked into her golden eyes. "Then let me carry some of it with you." That night, in a quiet stone cabin outside the colony, they prepared. Alira wore no royal robes, just a simple white dress. Jake brought only one thing, his promise. He sat beside her on the bed. She was already shaking. "Jake," she said, "you can back out, please. I don't want you to suffer." He touched her face. "I won't suffer alone. I'll suffer with you." She closed her eyes as the wind outside turned sharp and heavy. The night of sorrow had begun. Within minutes, Alira's body twisted in pain. She cried out, falling to the ground. Jake caught her, held her, whispered her name again and again. Her skin turned cold, then burning hot. She gasped for air. "Don't leave me," she cried. "I won't," Jake said. "I'm here." Her nails dug into his back. She didn't mean to hurt him, but her body was no longer hers. Jake bled. His shirt tore, but he never let go. He rocked with her. Holding her tight, he whispered stories from Earth about oceans and rain and childhood memories. "Remember the snow," he whispered. "Remember the girl who laughed." Alira screamed, then sobbed, then whispered back, "I see her." Outside, the queen stood with her guards. Watching the sky above the cabin glowed blue lights. Then red dot, then gold. One guard said, "Should we prepare for morning?" The queen shook her head slowly. "No. Something is different this time." Inside, hours passed. Then more. Jake was weak, now his back bleeding. His arms tired. But Alira had stopped shaking. She was breathing slowly. She looked at him with eyes full of tears. You didn't run. I never would. She touched his face with trembling fingers. You broke it. Jake collapsed beside her, holding her tightly. The sky outside turned silver. The night of sorrow was over, and for the first time in recorded Zion history, the princess slept through it. Morning came. The queen entered the cabin alone. She saw her daughter resting quietly. Curled beside the human, Jake sat up, tired but alive. Yalari stared at them for a long moment. Then, quietly, she removed her crown, placed it on the table, and walked away. The sun rose gently over the quiet moon of Ethar. Its light touched the hills, the gardens, the rooftops, and finally the small cabin where peace had been born. Inside, Princess Alira slept in complete stillness, her golden hair spread across the pillow. Her fingers loosely held Jake's hand. No curse, no shaking, no voices, only the sound of breath. Deep, steady, free. Jake woke first. His back ached from the pain of the night before. But he didn't complain. Instead, he turned to her and watched her sleep. He smiled. You did it? He whispered. You beat it. He didn't know if she could hear him, but something in her face shifted. Her lips curved slightly. She was dreaming again, not of fire, but of freedom. Later that morning, Alira opened her eyes slowly. Sunlight warmed her face. Jake was sitting nearby, sipping water, still watching her like she was the most precious thing in the universe. Alira blinked, confused for a second. Then she remembered. The night of sorrow, she whispered. You made it through, Jake said softly. You slept all the way. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't even remember the pain, just warmth and your voice. Over and took her hand gently. I was never going to leave. She pulled him closer. Then stay with me. Not just for nights, for days, for years, for everything. Jake looked into her eyes. Alira, are you sure? She nodded. Curse is gone. But I still want you beside me, not because I need saving, but because I finally know what love feels like. Jake laughed quietly. Took a curse to bring us together. She smiled. Then maybe it wasn't a curse after all. News of the broken curse spread fast. The Zion people, who had once feared their own princess, now gathered in crowds to see her. They carried flowers, not as offerings, but as thanks. Alira stood on the high balcony of a new home, dressed not in gold, but in simple white. Jake stood beside her, wearing clean clothes from the colony. They waved together. As equals, as partners, Alira stepped forward and spoke into the wind. I was born in silence, raised in fear, trained to carry pain like a crown. But pain is not power. The crowd grew quiet. She continued. Real power is choosing peace. Real strength is allowing love. I found both in a human. The people clapped, cheered, cried. Jake didn't say anything. He just smiled and held her hand. Later that evening, Alira returned to the cabin where everything changed. It would no longer be just a shelter. It would be home. She placed small, nosing, glowing stones along the wall, symbols of her royal past. Not to honor the pain, but to mark the journey. Jake was in the kitchen, cooking something strange and earthy. It smells terrible, Alira teased. You'll love it, Jake replied. Laughing, she wrapped her arms around him from behind. I already love everything, she said that night. They shared the bed again, not out of fear, not out of survival, but out of choice. Alira rested her head on Jake's chest. She was warm, calm, safe. You know, she said softly, I think I was waiting for you long before I knew you existed. Jake kissed the top of her head. And I think I crossed stars just to find you. Meanwhile, back on Zaya. Queen Yalari sat alone in the throne room. The room was quiet. No advisors, no guards, only her. She stared at the empty space where Alira's voice once echoed. A small crystal rested on her palm. It pulsed faintly with gold. Light the last piece of the curse. She squeezed it until it shattered. Weeks passed, then months. Alira and Jake built a life together. They worked in the colony gardens. They taught young children. They explored nearby moons on small ships, and every night they returned to that same bed. Not because of fear, but because love lived there now. And in that love, Elira never feared sleep again. One night, Jake whispered, "You ever miss being a princess?" Elira smiled against his chest. "No," she said, "because now I finally feel like a queen." He kissed her gently. "Then I'll be your royal pillow." She laughed and fell asleep in his arms, peacefully, proudly, forever.